Good evening. I've come on to talk about food, shockingly, because after weight loss surgery you do still eat, just very, very differently to how you did before. And it's a very steep learning curve, and it's basically like weaning a baby, only you're an adult. Does that make any sense? I will try to explain. So this isn't exactly the same for everybody, because different hospitals do it in a slightly different way. Different countries do it in a slightly different way. So this is not only UK specific, but also what my particular hospital did, the way they do it. So I won't go into great detail, but because I've done another video about it, and yeah, lots of people have done videos about it. But basically, before the operation, to make your stomach as easy to get to as possible, you do something called the liver reduction diet here. And if your BMI is over a certain amount, you do it for 2 weeks. If it's under a certain amount, you do it for 1 week. I did it for 1 week. I talked in the other video about what that entailed. It's pretty drastic, but it does the job. I lost a stone in that week. And then after the surgery, some hospitals want you to go on a liquid only diet, which is kind of basically like an extension of the pre-op diet, only without the jelly. But my hospital wants you to go straight onto puree. So from like in the hospital, they want you to go straight onto pureed food, maybe so that they can monitor how that goes to start with. So yeah, my start wasn't probably exactly the same as everybody else's because of the complications I had with the operation. So I had my first week of puree in hospital and it was all going fine. And then, as I said in another video, I got really nauseous because of the antibiotics afterwards, and ended up kind of swapping the 4 weeks that you're supposed to be on the puree. I kind of ended up kind of inadvertently putting myself on a liquid only diet and having a lot of soup, because that's all I felt I could get down. But the first 4 weeks you're supposed to be on puree. So normal meals, so for example, if you've got children and a husband or a partner or housemates that you're eating with, you can have what they're having, just pureed to a certain extent. There are some things that are on the don't touch this list. For example, I mean, it's pretty obvious that most people, sometimes forever, sometimes for a very long time after surgery, can't stomach very tough meats like steak or chops. But I mean, you wouldn't be trying to puree that up, would you? We're talking things like cauliflower cheese, any kind of vegetables. You could even make a shepherd's pie, puree that up, pureed fish pie, anything that's kind of like soft and not challenging, turned into baby food basically, except you're not allowed to have baby food because that hasn't got the appropriate nutrients for adults in it. Life would be a lot easier if you could just go to the supermarket, buy a ton of baby food and eat that for the 4 weeks of the puree week. But I was very lucky. My mum made my purees for me, most of which are still sitting in the freezer because I had soup instead. But I am going to use those purees, for example the broccoli and cauliflower cheese purees, and zhuzh them up with my hand blender and make them into more soup. Even though I'm now past the puree stage and the next stage and into eating more or less normal food, I'm still choosing to eat soup if I want to for lunch, so why not? So anyway, after the first 4 weeks of puree, which is what you're supposed to be on, didn't quite go like that for me, but that's what's supposed to happen, then you are heartily sick of puree, never want to see anything pureed again in your life. And then you go on to what's called the mash stage for 4 weeks, and that's basically anything soft that you can get a fork through. It all gets terribly exciting at that stage because you can have things like avocado, hummus, soft cheese like Philadelphia. As I said, Mum made a shepherd's pie that I zhuzhed the mince up for. Just anything that's kind of soft and not challenging for your stomach, because you know it really does need to be. You're weaning your new stomach into being a new stomach. And then after those 8 weeks, after the 4 weeks of puree and the 4 weeks of mash, then you can go on to normal food. But each hospital will give you a list of foods that they suggest that you either don't try for quite some time or just leave out altogether. As I said, one of them is steak and chops. My list also includes sweet corn for obvious reasons. I mean, let's face it, we all know, I think, don't we, that even with a normal stomach, sweet corn's not easily digestible. Let's not go any further with that one, but you all know what I'm talking about. Pineapple, weirdly, is on that list. I don't know why. It's probably something I'll try, but it's on the list. A lot of people have trouble with pasta, especially if it's overcooked, because it kind of slips down a bit too easy without chewing, and then it's too easy to eat it quickly and get it stuck and have the dreaded foamies like I had yesterday. Bread, people don't do terribly well with, but these are by no means hard and fast rules. They're things that some people, or quite a lot of people, have issues with, but you can try it, and if it's all right for you, then you can have it, and if it isn't, then don't have it again for a while. Try it again. If you still have problems with it, maybe just leave it. I am in week 9. Yeah, I think that's right, week 9. And yeah, it is, as I said, it's a very steep learning curve, because in theory I should now be able to eat whatever I like, but it's much easier to get really soft things in still. So for example, when I'm out, I have ordered soup, I've ordered a quiche and left the crust. I had frittata that I asked for a takeaway carton for, and that lasted me 3 meals, where it would have lasted me 1 before. I'm struggling a bit more with food at home, and as I said yesterday in the dreaded foamies video, I think that is because I'm letting myself get too hungry before I start going to sort myself out something to eat. So again, I made a really concerted effort to not do that today. Try to stagger my meals out a bit more, and chew and chew and chew and chew, chew and chew. And still, with my dinner, got a few mouthfuls in, got that kind of don't put anything else in me feeling from my stomach, slightly kind of heavy, could be going down the route of foamies route. And I thought, nah, I'm just not even going to try any more of this. I have got to learn to chew things until they are mushy liquid in my mouth. And I was thinking, it's like, I've been a bit of an eat to live person in the past, you know, like food is a kind of sensual, you know, kind of pleasure as well as fuel. But at this particular stage, it really does need to be a kind of eat to live mentality. I need to look at it as fuel. And no matter how hungry I am and no matter how tasty it is, it has to be chewed until it's a paste before I swallow it. Otherwise, it's going to make me ill and I'm not going to be able to get it down. But if you've done things a different way for 46 years, that's actually really a real challenge to make yourself do it differently. So most meal times at the moment are a learning curve, but that's okay. You know, when I signed up for this, I knew what I was letting myself in for. But it's just, yeah, it's interesting. So, yeah, I'm also still cooking as if I'm going to eat the portions that I had before. I'm starting to halve them now. So I made half what I would have normally had today, and I ate not even a quarter of it. So, you know, in terms of shopping, cooking, and then dishing up, it's just, I've got to learn a completely different way of doing things, and that's gonna take some time, I think, to wrap my head around. It's a biggie, no pun intended. Anyway, that's my little thought for the day, and yes, I shall be back with more very soon. Bye bye.